5 true, creepy horror stories, animated. These stories were sent in by real people viewers just like you. People who, for whatever reason, found themselves in a moment they still can't fully explain. Whether it was a stranger, a sound, or something, just slightly off about the world around them, they reached out because they needed someone to know. Tonight, we have 5 of those stories. Turn off the lights if you want. Or don't. Story 1. The Man at the End of the Hall. This story comes from a viewer named Melissa from Ohio. I was 19 when I moved into my first apartment. It was a 3rd-floor unit in an older building, the kind with thin walls and an elevator that groaned like it resented you for using it. I'd been there about 3 weeks when I started noticing him. At first I thought he was a neighbor. An older man, heavy-set, always wearing a gray coat. He'd be standing at the far end of the hallway when I left for work in the morning. Just standing there, facing the wall. I figured maybe he was waiting for someone. Maybe he was hard of hearing and didn't notice me pass. I didn't say anything the first few times, but then I came home late one night. It must have been past midnight and he was there again. Same spot, same gray coat, facing the wall. I speed walked to my door and locked it behind me. The next morning, I knocked on my neighbor Diane's door and asked if she knew who he was. She looked at me for a long moment, then said, "Honey, that end of the hall has been a dead end since they sealed off the old fire door. Nobody lives down there." I moved out 2 months later. I never saw him face on. Not once. Story 2. She Kept Calling Back. This one was submitted by Jordan, age 24, from rural Tennessee. I worked the night shift at a distribution warehouse about 40 minutes from my house. The drive home takes me down a 2-lane road with no streetlights, just fields and tree lines on either side. One night in November, about 2 a.m., I got a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. 30 seconds later, same number. I let it ring out again. 3rd time, I picked up, figuring it was an emergency. The voice on the other end was a woman. She sounded calm, almost too calm, and she said, "You need to stop the car." I said, "Excuse me?" She said it again. "Pull over and stop the car. Right now." Something made me do it. I don't know why. I pulled onto the gravel shoulder and stopped. About 4 seconds later, a truck ran the 4-way stop at the intersection ahead of me doing what must have been 70 miles an hour. No headlights. I would have been in that intersection. I turned back to the phone to say something, but the call was already dead. I called the number back. It said the number was not in service. I sat on that shoulder for 20 minutes before I could make myself drive again. I've never found an explanation. I've stopped looking for one. Story 3. Something was living under the porch. Kevin from upstate New York sent this one in. He said he debated whether to share it for almost a year. My family's house had a raised porch out back, old wood, lattice skirting around the bottom. We always figured animals got under there sometimes. Raccoons, maybe a stray cat. Then the dogs stopped going near it. We had 2 labs big, confident, dopey dogs who were afraid of absolutely nothing. Starting one summer, both of them refused to go within 10 feet of that porch. They'd stand at the edge of the yard, hackles up, staring at the lattice. My dad figured something had died under there, and the smell was bothering them. He went to check with a flashlight. He came back inside and didn't say much. I asked him what was there. He said, "Nothing. Just some old tops and leaves." But his face was wrong. And he replaced all the lattice panels that weekend. Every single one. New wood, screwed in tight. He never explained why. I asked him about it maybe 10 years later, when I was in my 20s. He was quiet for a second. Then he said, the tops were arranged, like something had made a nest, but the shape was too big, too long. He didn't say anything else. We haven't talked about it since. Story 4. The Campsite Neighbor. This story is from Amber, who was 18 when this happened. She was on a solo camping trip in a state forest in the Pacific Northwest. I'd been backpacking for 2 days when I set up camp near a small clearing. It was remote, the kind of trail where you might not see another person for the whole trip. That night, around 10 p.m., I saw a light through the trees. A flashlight, maybe 200 yards away. Someone else had camped nearby. Fine. Normal. Plenty of room for 2 campers. But then the light started moving, slowly, in a wide circle around my campsite. I watched it through my tent mesh. It made one full loop. Then it stopped directly across the clearing from me, maybe 100 feet out, and it went off. I sat completely still. I had a knife. I didn't move for a long time. Eventually, I heard footsteps moving away slow and deliberate back into the trees. In the morning, I packed up before sunrise and hiked out. When I got back to the trailhead, there was only one other car in the lot besides mine. On my windshield, there was a small stone. Just a single stone, sitting on the driver's side wiper. I don't know how to explain what felt intentional about all of it, but it did. Every bit of it felt like a message. I've never gone solo camping since. Story 5. My grandmother's last visit. We'll end tonight with something a little different. This came from a viewer named Darius, and he calls it the most important thing that has ever happened to him. My grandmother lived 3 states away and was in poor health. I hadn't seen her in 2 years. We weren't estranged, just busy, and the distance was hard. I always thought there would be more time. One night in March, I woke up at 3 a.m. for no reason. I was completely alert, like someone had tapped me on the shoulder. I sat up in bed, and in the doorway of my bedroom, I saw my grandmother. She looked younger than she had the last time I saw her. She was smiling. She didn't say anything. She just looked at me with this expression I can only describe as peace. Like she wanted me to know she was okay. Like she was saying goodbye without saying anything at all. Then, she was gone. I sat there in the dark. And then I picked up my phone and called my mom. She answered on the second ring, which told me she was already awake. She said, "Darius, I was just about to call you." My grandmother had passed at 2:47 that morning. I don't know what I believe. I don't know how to categorize what I saw, but I know I'm not afraid of death the way I used to be. And I know she wanted me to know she was okay. 5 stories. 5 moments where something slipped through a stranger who shouldn't have been there. A call that couldn't have happened. A goodbye that defied every explanation. If you have a story of your own, something that happened that you've never been able to explain, you can send it to us. The email is in the description below. We read every single one. Until next time, stay safe, and maybe leave a light on. Before you go, if any of those stories made you look over your shoulder or made you feel something you can't quite name, hit that subscribe button. We post new stories every week. And trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. And if you're watching this late at night, alone, you might want to check the comments. Because you are not the only one. Tell me which story got to you the most. Drop it down below. I read every single comment. And honestly, some of your replies are scarier than the stories themselves. One last thing. That feeling you have right now, that little voice telling you to check the corner of the room? Probably nothing. Good night.